Hello there, and it is the end of the year. I'm going to do one more quick color theory video here. I hope that you've been able to watch some of the Bridgman videos that I've been posting as well. Anything and everything to help you level up in the work that you're doing. So I just wanted to do one last color theory video related to all the conversation that I had in the first, I don't remember exactly, like a dozen color theory videos that I put out for Muddy Colors. And I wanted to recap this by doing just a really quick color up of this. Now, I'm going to minimize the background because that would take forever to put in all that information. And I really just want to get a few elements surrounding the Stormtrooper so that the values within the Stormtrooper are easier to see. The first thing that I want to do is create a bounding box for the surrounding. I'm not going to go very far up into the sky, but I left the sky in the photograph so we can see what exactly is influencing the forms. So the first color that I want to put in is just something that represents this ground really quickly. The ground is warm. If we look down along the legs, there's this sort of reddish color that's bouncing into this lower leg here, and a little bit of the thigh, the underside of the wrist. There's a few places where there's a kind of a ruddy or reddish hue. I'm going to start the whole thing off. I'm going to set up a multiply layer and fill the space. I'm actually going to lighten this just a touch so it's not as chromatic and a little bit lighter in value. That's pretty close to the grout in the foreground in here, but I'm going to go just a little bit lighter. Like I said, just a little bit. In the background, up around the horizon line, deselect this lower half here, right up to about here. I'm going to use the building color. Now the building color is sort of a beige, kind of a light tannish hue, probably even lighter than that. And I want to be careful not to make it too orangey, although it does have an orange-like quality to it. And then I am also going to spot the tree in the background there. I'm going to put a little spot of that right over here. There's a warmth to the tree. I'm going to go a little darker in value there. Now everything else I do, I have to use the lasso tool, and I'm going to get a little messy doing that. I'm going to start with a basic color for the entire outfit. Now we know Stormtroopers are white, but I'm not going to use a pure white. I'm going to use something just a little bit darker than pure white. There really is no such thing as pure white, just like there's no pure black, especially during the daytime. Now, at nighttime, yes, you will find things that are pretty close to black in value. If you're in a room without light, you're going to find black. But outdoors, during the daylight, it's going to be really hard to find a dark that is black. The sunlight hitting a form is going to give it a coloration based upon the light source. So we're not actually going to see anything that's pure black. Now remember, this is for the illustrator who is doing a realistic looking light source. We have many different ways of illustrating, but if you're going to do things that have a bit of realism to the lighting, then this is definitely something that you'll want to take into consideration. Now, I don't really need any one particular hue to do this. I'm going to grab something that's a little darker than white. And then just really quickly in my OCD head, I'm going to get rid of a little bit of the spillover here and there. I might even go just a tiny bit darker in value here. I don't know if it's actually going to let me. It's not actually a pure white. It's really light, but we're going to do something here so we can see the effect of the sunlight as it hits the surface forms. All right, so the most important shadow that we need to put in is the shadow on the ground plane. We could start with any old shadow, but we don't want just any old shadow. We want something that represents this light source up here, the skylight, because that is what's filling the shadow with value. So there's a part of that shadow here, and then the rest of it going off the frame here and here. Get rid of the excess. Get just a little more blocked in there. All right, now the blue in the sky kind of falls into this family. We have a darker blue. Because of the time of day, the shadows are still really dark. They don't have a lot of the sky filling them as of yet. It's probably summertime, probably around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe 3 o'clock, because the shadows are starting to get longer. And we're using multiplies, so I have to be careful about the value that I choose the shadow to be, because it is multiplying against the other value. That's pretty good. I think I'm going to leave this value as is. And it has a bluishness to it. Now, as we get into the lighter colors, the shadows will appear lighter in contrast. The thing we have to consider is, what is the distance between the local value here and how dark the shadow is? So the local value is somewhere right around here. And the shadow is 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 values over. So a 5 value contrast. So if we're starting here with the Stormtrooper outfit, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is going to be roughly the value that we use. This is going to be interesting. And I did forget to fill in the darks on the outfit. I'll probably go in there really quickly in just a moment and fill those in. It's kind of averaging the shapes. All of this is in shadow. The side of this is in shadow. And I should probably work in zones, one zone at a time. I'll take care of everything down here in the leg first. About 3/4 of the sole here, up along here, up through here. Bring this over a little farther. There is a cast shadow over here, and then there's also a small shadow on the top of the foot. There's a shadow that comes down along here. Cast shadow. Let me bring this back up. Down along here, back the side of the shoe, all through here. And now I'm going to find that value. And I'm also going to make sure to put a little bit more chroma into it. I'm just checking the size of the shadows here. I can take a little bit off of this. Need to put a little bit in there, over here. Then this entire side of the gun, take that away. Now our two light sources, the sky and the sun, are what illuminate everything here. And then we have reflected light. In this case, it's the outfit of the Stormtrooper that's reflecting back into places like this arm over here, the side of the gun here. The belt is dropping some shadows in there. And it's also casting a shadow across the top of this block and over off to the side of it here and through here. Now, the reason I picked the Stormtrooper is because of the white of the outfit. It's a little bit easier to have this conversation when you can see it on a clean object, kind of like a cast that you would draw in art class. Because of their white nature, you're seeing form in full value. That's why you draw from casts. It's sort of the first step into art school and the first step into looking at forms. All of this is in shadow. Looks like a small part of this is in the light on his outfit. Now I need to go back in really quickly and block in the local values. One other area that I do want to block in a shadow is up behind here. There's a cast shadow here. The shadow on the inside of the tunnel is a little bit darker than the shadow on the side of the wall, and I do want to put both of those in. I think it's important. The shadow that's under the tunnel is going to be a little bit more neutral than the shadow that's on the side of the wall facing towards us. Shadow facing towards us is all of this. Clean this up. And then I'm also going to block in this shadow over here. I'm going to make sure to put some blue into this. Not very much, but just enough. Now, there's a local color in there as well that should also be applied to those particular areas. When the shadow goes in, it darkens the local color. There's also going to be a cast shadow over here. I'm just going to throw a quick shadow in this spot. It's on the ground, so it is going to be a little bit more sky reflective. I'm going to use the brush tool and really quickly add a gradation along this edge. The edge over here. The edge along here. Through here. And then along the thighs. And the shins. Then there's a half tone through here, but I'll put that in next. And then a little bit of half tone along here. Use the clear brush along these edges just to roll them a little further back. Roll those edges over a little bit. Okay, now on the lit side, we're going to use overlay, and we're going to think about the sunlight. So lighter color, lighter value. That lighter value is going to be leaning more towards the yellow family. I'll go ahead and block in one small area just to make sure that what I'm using works. It's probably a little too yellow. Slide this over just a little bit more, and I'm going to make it just a tinge more orangey. Now, why don't you see that in the photograph? Well, the reason is that the photo is colder altogether. Doesn't have the same warmth as you would actually see out there on location. And then there's the digital camera that's taking in the blue over here, and it's cooling the whole thing off. As you look down towards the feet, though, those are warmer, for sure. But the rest of the outfit in the photograph is being influenced by the blue. The ambient light wins. Now, once this is all blocked in, then I need to make a level adjustment. What I'll do is take the layer and lighten it. But you can already see how much stronger everything looks because of the influence of that sunlight. And it's really easy to spot when something hasn't been painted. Now I'm going to take the layer and lower the opacity by about 50%. I'm also going to take the brush tool and set it to clear mode and pull a little bit of that light off of these gradations. There's a gradation over here for sure. Now I'm going to do the same thing for the ground plane and the wall in the background. I'm going to put some light on the wall back here. But instead of using the color that we're using right now, I'm going to drop the temperature over here because it's on a darker value. I'm going to do the same thing with the ground plane. In fact, for that wall, yeah, there we go. I'm going to darken the value just a little bit more. Now all the ground. Looks like I also forgot to put in the light on the shoes. Now on the ground plane, you can go a little more reddish and a little bit lighter. There we go. Now you can really see sunlight and you can see very clearly the shadows. They're both very obvious to the eye now. And everything looks a lot more like it's in the sunlight. And the more I take out the light from within these areas, the stronger the light source gets. This doesn't quite look the same because it has those ridges in it. If I take some of these ridges out, there's a bigger difference in the way that they look to each other. The other thing I'd need to do is fill them with shadow color. I don't have any shadow color within them. But now everything is lit by the sunlight. Now I did say that I need to shift the local color back here on the wall. It's going to drop in temperature. It's a warm wall. The same thing is happening right over here on this part. This is a bit more washed out and has a little more blue in it, which I'll also fill. But with this wall now in the shadows, I'm going to use a little bit more chroma and then lighten that up in opacity. I'm also going to paint that color right along the edge at the terminator here and along the terminator right along here. Now this part looks more like it's influenced by the sky, and these look more like they have the local color in them. Now the reflected light. With reflected light, I'm going to use a normal layer and just paint right into the shadows. And there's a few reflected colors that we're going to work with. The first one is going to be the ground color, which has a little bit more of the reddishness in it. Right up along here. Right along here. The entire belt through here. The underside of the helmet here. And the backside edge over here. Down along the shin through here. The kneecap. The front of the gun. A hint of the side of the leg. The front of this pack. Part of the shoe. And the side of the gun over here. A little bit of the gun down along the lower half here. All through here. The underside here doesn't exactly have this color in it. It has more of the Stormtrooper outfit color, which is going to be a little bit more like this, a little more neutral. And that's the same with the arm over here. And the same with the thigh right along here. And the same with the shin. Down through here. Part of the knee. And then within the shoe. Now the other color that's influencing him is the sky color. And that's going to be all up along in here. On the shoulder. As it comes down into the chest. Top side of the helmet here. Top side of the helmet through here. In fact, I'm going to go just a little bit more bluish. Yeah, that's a little better right there. All of this through here, along the top here, and the tops of the shadows through here, side of the mask through here, and along here. The front of the gun, the holster here, tops of these shapes here and here, and a hint of this part of his thigh through here, top of this shadow, and even a little bit of this edge right along here. Then we have the ambient occlusions, which are a blue, but a darker blue with red influence. One of those is under here. Another one is inside of here. There's a small one over here on his side that rolls out into the blue light. There's a small one underneath here, along here. The undersides of these shapes, which I forgot to put the reflected light in those, and you can see how stark they are. I also forgot to put the blue light over in here. Get some of that blue light back in here. Too dark a value. Go a little bit lighter there. And then I'm going to push the light a little bit brighter in here. I forgot to drop the sunlight in there. Since it is a darker color, it is going to have a darker blue. Something around in that range, but less chroma. Something right along the lines of this. You can pinch a little bit of that through those edges. Up along in here, there's also a blue. It's really hard to see, but there's a blue color along in here, darker in value and less red in it through that section. And then on the visor over here. Now you might not see it at first glance, but these things are being affected by the light sources. And once you can identify them, it makes putting the picture together and making it feel believable in the light much easier to do. Oh, there's also another ambient shadow right along the underside here. But you can see how much stronger everything looks. Yes, it's a white outfit, but with the sunlight in it, it makes it even stronger looking. Now there's one more color to put in here, and this is the ambient light, and it's out in the sunlight portion. There's some of that over here on the shoulder, which I made too dark. Some of that over here on the shoulder. I'm going to make a new layer for this because I'm going to definitely be heavy-handed about this. A little bit on the shoulder, a little bit on the chest through here to roll the chest, a little bit along here, over here on the mask, a hint of that along here. Through this section, it's part sun and part sky. So we'll push a little bit of that coloration. That same kind of color is happening here and here, and along the underside over here. Parts of the gun along through here. It's a combination of sky and sun. So the sky blue, the sun red, or in this case, because it's a darker value, a little bit more red in it. But they're mixing together to form this secondary color. Clean up just a little bit through here, make it a little bit lighter. And that's rolling the form. Where the lights meet each other in a halftone, they sort of mix together and make this more ruddy blue. Where the bounce light is for the ground plane, a more orangey red. For the sky, a lighter blue. And for the ambient light rolling over the shoulders, more blue in it. That would be the sky influence. There's a little bit of that sky influence right here in the front of this shoulder pad, in the front of this plate here. And the front of the leg through here. The underside here has that kind of reddish color. Pick some of this, throw that into this part. Same thing with this knee pad, because they're facing downward and the bounce light coming from the ground is really influencing it. And there's the sunlight hitting it. Both of those are at the same time are affecting that surface. But there is a formula going on here, and it has to do with the light sources that we're looking at. Once you know what the light source is, you know how to influence the surfaces. And then you just have to remember that a lighter value is going to receive a lighter warmth. A darker value, a darker warmth. And you start playing with that theory in the way that you fill these spaces, and you would be surprised at how close to the actual truth you're seeing things, and you're getting that kind of a result once you start painting those in. Now, this isn't something you're going to see immediately, but the more you practice, the easier it will be to work with. It takes time. And it is better if you look at this outdoors in the actual light and not just from a photograph. You sort of have to take my word for it with this photo. But once you start to go out and observe this for yourself with your own eyes, you will start to see all of these colors that are actually involved. And there is an explanation for all of it. It's not just random. There is an actual explanation for why you're seeing everything that you are seeing. It's because of the color of all these light sources. The objects that are surrounding this are bounce light. they're bouncing light into them. So those are an influence. The sky is an influence. The sun is an influence. And if you push those elements correctly at the value that they are, and in that value you're looking for the range of contrast between the lit side and the shaded side. And the closer you get to that appropriate contrast, the closer to believability you're going to be making everything once you paint it in to the outfit, to the landscape, to the object that you're trying to paint in your picture. Good luck with your studies. And if you have any questions or concerns or doubts about anything that you saw here, please leave those in the comments, and I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you. Happy holidays, Happy New Year, and I'll see you in the next one.